to keep them in different spheres, and they just don't relate to each other.
Yeah, I wish that we had some evolutionary psychologists in the room. They'd be very good people to begin answering those kind, or at least telling us how they're thinking about those kinds of questions. There is a kind of a practical aspect to what you're talking about, which is, I think, true for most people, especially people of faith, but I think everybody, that, you know, we have all of these scientific discoveries, and we do wonder every day, at least I do, every day I read the newspaper and something new's been discovered, I do wonder, you know, what kind of an impact that has on that other, you know, the other half of who I am. And I've come to the conclusion that keeping in mind questions like Kant's question, 3 questions: what can I know, what can I hope, what should I do? Those are important for recognizing that wherever the frontiers of science might push us, it does seem that there are a whole group of questions that really cannot be answered scientifically. They have to be answered philosophically. They have to be answered theologically. But scientists are not competent by the very nature of as scientists to answer those kinds of questions. I was reminded in all of this of the point that one of the critics of Dawkins made, which is that he's a great scientist and a great publicist of science, Richard Dawkins, but a poor philosopher. And the book that he wrote about, you know, the non-existence of God is not a scientific book; it's a philosophical book, which is not a way of avoiding the question, but of recognizing that there really do seem to be a whole series of questions that simply cannot be addressed. Which is that, when what that implies philosophically is that there's more than one realm of being in which we participate, right? And that seems to be kind of what's underlying this. Is there another realm of being in which we participate besides the material one, besides the living one, in pure material biological terms? Those are philosophical questions.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, within interfaith dialogue and bringing together different religions and different beliefs, I'm a little confused at how we can function under the pretense of interfaith dialogue, but we still maintain that there's a chosen race, or if you don't believe this, you're going to hell, or there is a heaven and a hell, or there's different gods versus one God. Fundamentally, these concepts go against each other and create divides, but yet we're approaching interfaith dialogue with these divides already designed into this. How can that be interfaith dialogue?
Well, just briefly, my answer would be we're talking to each other, and that's fundamentally what dialogue is. And I think those who participate frequently in interfaith dialogue recognize that they're not, neither group, both parties, or all the parties, come with specific ideas that they know the other might not agree with, and that they agree to and both recognize the dignity and the opinions of the other, so that there's a space in which, I mean, neither party can feel like the other side is trying to convert them, you know, or trying to press their claims. And you know, I have participated in quite a bit of Jewish-Christian interfaith dialogue, and you know, the leaders of this group were a rabbi and a priest who, you know, said, we'll find out on the last day, you know, we'll find out when we get to heaven if, you know, if you have to believe in Jesus to be saved or not. And like, that was their, and they, you know, they were great friends and they joked with each other. And so there has to be a recognition of sort of safe space. So, you know, if somebody thinks I'm going to hell, like, okay, you know, that's difficult, or if they have some fundamental belief that I don't agree with, of course that's a point of challenge, but it doesn't have to be, you know, if both parties agree to sort of listen to each other, you know. Dr. Agbas has been talking about that a lot, stopping and listening, you know, and that's fundamentally what dialogue is about. And without that, you know, you don't want to give up what you believe, but you have to listen to the other. So I think it's about listening and about having the conversation. That's the key thing.
Yeah, sure, please.
In my introductory remarks, I said I'm simply a person who is of the Jewish faith, but I don't know much about it. But one of the things I do know is that Jews don't believe that we have all the answers. And in fact, converting to Judaism is discouraged because we don't have, this is not just the right and only way. For that reason, I think that maybe the concept that some people have of religion as an exclusionary group of that sort doesn't represent Judaism.
And if I may, I'm part of a interfaith dialogue group here in Lawrence that's been in existence for about 3 years, and it brings people of different religions together for conversation. And the premise is that the goal for what we do is mutual appreciation. It is not conversion, and I believe it's a false premise that that the goal has to be agreement on all issues for there to be a dialogue with integrity. I don't believe that at all. I think we bring our distinctiveness to the dialogue, and we maintain it and sustain it in the dialogue, honoring what we believe at the very deepest levels, and that's the best kind of dialogue there can be.
I would say we should look at more what we have common rather than what we have difference. If I just go and then discuss with my, I'm not a theologian. I didn't have a formal theological course. I'm just a simple Muslim learning every day. If I just start to discuss the Trinity, I will not get to the resolution, and it's going to be the waste of my time. But we can talk more how we can, for example, eradicate drug abuse among in our society, and the betterment of the woman, for example, how we can provide, or hunger, or the striving for the peace. More common points. I think we have more common points, not only among the monotheistic religion, but also on others, either the natives or Hindu, Brahman, or anything that what you have. That we have a more common points. Even we can find the common points among the agnostics and the atheists, but they are human beings too. They have a heart too. We need to just look at under the interfaith, the dialogue, more common points, more common points. That was actually exercised by the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, peace be upon him. Well, he is alone, so he's going to the idol worshippers of the Mecca, and then people were so brutal. This year, for example, in this era, what we see, the attack on Islam is nothing. They were really brutal and physical. And then he's trying to get his message out. Well, he's a human being too, right? And then he just, drops the ball, and what's happening when the revelation comes? It says that do not be discouraged. This is directed from God Almighty. Do not be discouraged, okay? Do your best. Advice. Converting the hearts is my business. You can't convert the people. You can't. People sometimes, I convert the 100 Muslims to Christians, or the 500 Christians to Muslims. It is not really you, right? That is his job. That is his work. All you do, you just, to do your best. Be kind. Be nice. Be positive. Looking at all the root of the religions that exist in both, monotheistic religions as well as in others, there are really human values underneath. Being kind, being nice, helping to one another, refraining, the bad. But if we really strive for focusing on the common points rather than the differences, I think we will have, some more steps, forward. It's not that big, but it's one step is a one step. Start with baby steps.
Robert, that was a good question. I was not going to say anything, but one thing did occur to me, that it might be useful too to think of these religious traditions not as toolkits out of which we can grab concepts that we can beat each other with, cudgels, but rather they are traditions of inquiry. They are traditions in which we are taught, how to ask questions, and they are also traditions of making sense. And when you come at them that way, then the dialogue also helps to make sense. I find that the conversations that I have with all the different kinds of people my colleague listed help me to be more thoughtful as a Christian, and help me to clarify my own tradition of inquiry, my own traditions of trying to make sense, and at times at least worry less about picking the right tool out of my box that I can beat somebody over the head with. So it is a good question, but part of it is how are you thinking about what your faith commitments really are and what they mean and what they give you.
All right, we're almost out of time, so we probably have time for one more question. Oh, sorry. Sir.
Well, I think you've all done a splendid job. Dr. Agbas, I think you've done a fantastic job in my mind representing your faith and your science, and your candidness and humility has been clear. I think one of the things that the Muslim faith has done maybe a better job of is maintaining the commitment to revelation that came up earlier with Dr. Zahn. What's the nature of revelation? And one of the things that I've found that my Christian brothers and sisters have struggled with is to maintain a commitment to revelation in the midst of tolerating other people's perspectives. And it seems that to me that you've maintained a commitment to revelation in more of a traditional sense, but have a very openness towards others. What advice would you give Christians in that regard?
As a matter of fact, when I was young and foolish, and then having the little knowing about that, all the other religions coming from the homogeneous the society, throughout my interactions with the others, I always concerned one thing: how much I can give and how much I can learn. I think that really helped me. 20 years ago, I was involved in the interfaith dialogue. One Muslim, one Christian, and one Jew. But that Jewish person also trained in India with the yogi, so he has really he's very deep philosophical person. We were just going door to door and church to church, and that Christian priest, he was 75 years old, and then he asked that, okay, how can I get a copy of Quran? But he's an American, so we provide him translation. And then, well, there are also some empty pages. Can I also write? Because he had the respect about that. Oh, of course, you can just write your thoughts. And then he finished. I'm just asking my the Muslims around here, how many times really you finished the meaning of the Quran cover to cover. That finished. He finished. He finished, and he came to me that, Baki, I read that, and then my faith in Christianity strengthened. I think that, well, the truth is one. Either you find in the Quran, you find in the Torah, you find in the Bible. Truth is the truth. It doesn't really matter who is speaking and which book you are reading. What's more important, your position, that you connect, you maintain your connection to your Lord, and then respect others, and then try to learn from one another. I mean, I had a really very limited knowledge about the Judaism and the Christianity because I'm coming from the Muslim country. Maybe there's some very sporadic the readings, but here I have a really intensive the readings and discussion, all those things, and I feel that there are the truths is in there. In fact, for example, our parents taught that do not criticize the people of book. People of book, basically the Christian and the Jews. Okay? Do not. What if there is a truth in their book and you don't know, and you are contradicting yourself, and then you will be going to hellfire. That's what mother was warning us, and be very, very cautious. Be very, very cautious. I think the one thing that I would like to share with you, since we are living in the Kansas, it's a wheat state. There are two kinds of wheats, right? One of them has no fruit inside, and then it just stands really tall, very high tall. The other one is full with wheat and then the fruits, and then you can see that it's too heavy that just goes all the way down. The more you know, the more humility you have. The less I know, I think the more arrogant I am.